Hey, J-Bros popping in. Yeah, we had some gully washers last night, so this is a perfect test for the grid. I just drove my truck up from down below, and I never got around to packing this with the actual packer. And nor did I go over this again with the skid to, let's just say, scrape down the excess. So I think I probably have 2 inches of extra material over the grid. And what I'm kind of guessing right now is I just drove here. We don't see the grid here. So this is just excess material where I sunk in. But look at how much water, when I drove over this grid, look at how much water that P-Rock and grid was holding inside there to not run this stuff off. There was still a little bit of runoff coming down here, but I think part of that is due to the fact that I don't have any set up for my gutter yet. So I'm catching this water plus catching that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the mini skid. I'm going to back drag this and bring this stuff down here. And I do have a different little plan that I'm going to test out on this, but I don't want to spoil that reveal here just yet. But like I said, what's kind of cool is I'll just show you back up here why I think the grid worked, because you can see how much water it's holding, because it just got done raining maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. But you'll see right up here up top, this is kind of, let's say, where it started to speed up and pool. Well, you can see as it got to the grid here, it quit washing out for the most part, and it started just kind of commingling in the grid. But there still was enough water and runoff for it to start running off a little bit here and washing that out. But that's because I got so much loose material on top of here. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the mini skid fired up, back drag this down, and just get some of that loose fill off now that it's wet. Because the other day when I was trying to do it and flatten stuff out, it was just so dry, and it just felt like I was moving stuff around versus actually kind of moving and packing. But I'll get the skid fired up and let's go. There, that kind of gives an idea. I've got that way flatter. I probably took a good inch and a half of a hump out of the middle there, and then look at how much water was sitting in that, into the top of that grid. Yeah, and I would probably just state this again. I don't think, if I'm doing this again, I'm not using P-Rock. Now, that was an experiment, so if anybody ever thought about doing P-Rock, there's just really no point. It's like, just get the crushed rock or river rock, but crushed rock would be the best. But with that being said, it did stop all that, and you can see how much water came out of that when I was back dragging it. And then of course, you know, like I said, I've got other issues with water here, but like I said, I've got another experiment I'm going to try for here, and I might try that same experiment over this, but I got to let this dry out. Like I said, we got a ton of water last night, so it was a great test. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. J-Bros out. And that there's just another reason why a guy wants to stay on top of keeping your rig clean. You know, you saw how much mud and stuff I had in there from back dragging that spot. If that would have got cleaned up in there and dried like I did in the past, it would have did so much more wear and tear to my track. So that's other preventative maintenance. Just like I said, just stay on top of it. Oh, looks like I missed some spots up there, but I can hit that after a bit. But just stay on top of it, just keeping your stuff clean. It just helps you notice more things and stuff. Of course, keeps the rig looking beautiful, because I mean, like I said, this is about 175 hours, 180 hours now. You know, I've had this full year. No, shoot, where's time gone? I don't know. I've had it a long time. Yeah, this is my second year. So yeah, machine's running great. Just keep her clean. As one gentleman mentioned, you know, I got a little water on there, no big deal. I'll just wipe this all down and whatnot. But yeah, she's ready for the next job. I'll just let her sit here and dry out. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. J Bros out.